We've kind of gotten used to BlackRock beating the numbers, beating expectations.
BlackRock announcing its...
Right now, someone is making a decision that will affect your rent, your pension, your job, and the price of everything you buy. You didn't vote for them. You've never met them. You've probably never even thought about them. But they control more than 10 trillion. More money than the entire economies of most countries on Earth. And they do it quietly, through a company called BlackRock. And once you start looking for it, you see the pattern everywhere. Apple, Microsoft, ExxonMobil, Amazon, JP Morgan, Pfizer, Coca-Cola, Netflix, the biggest companies on Earth. Different industries, different CEOs, different strategies. But when you look at the shareholder lists, the same name keeps appearing, over and over again: BlackRock. To understand BlackRock, you have to understand the man who built it. And to understand the man, you have to start with the moment he was humiliated. 1986. Larry Fink is 33 years old, and he is, by any reasonable measure, a Wall Street star. He works at First Boston, one of the most prestigious investment banks in the world, and he has done something genuinely remarkable. He helped invent a new kind of financial product: mortgage-backed securities, bundles of home loans repackaged into tradable assets. The street loves them. Fink is celebrated. His future looks limitless. And then he loses $100 million in a single quarter. A bad bet on interest rates. A miscalculation. The kind of thing that happens in finance. Except it doesn't happen to stars. Not visibly. Not like this. He is pushed out. Wall Street is a city with a very long memory and a very short tolerance for public failure. Fink's name, which had been spoken with admiration, is now spoken differently. He is, in the quiet language of finance, damaged goods. Most people in that situation take a lesser job. Rebuild slowly. Wait for the story to fade. Larry Fink decided to do something else entirely. In 1988, with 7 partners in a borrowed office, Fink starts over. They have no clients, no track record worth advertising. What they have is an idea, and the idea is this. The reason Fink lost that $100 million wasn't greed. It wasn't recklessness. It was that nobody, not him, not anyone, had the tools to properly measure risk across a complex portfolio of assets. The financial industry was flying blind and calling it expertise. Fink was going to build the instrument panel. He and his team began constructing a software system unlike anything on Wall Street at the time. It would ingest data from thousands of assets simultaneously, model risk scenarios, identify hidden exposures that a human analyst staring at a spreadsheet would never catch. They name it Aladdin. Asset, liability, debt, and derivative investment network. It sounds like a back-office tool, but it would become something far more powerful. The early years are grinding. BlackRock scrapes for clients, pitches endlessly, builds its reputation one careful trade at a time. But Aladdin keeps getting better. And slowly, something unexpected happens. Other institutions start wanting access to it. Banks, insurance companies, pension funds, they hear about this risk management system, and they want it running on their portfolios too. So BlackRock licenses it. For a fee, other institutions can plug into Aladdin and let it run the numbers, which means BlackRock is no longer just managing money. It's managing the risk calculations of the people who manage money. Today, Aladdin monitors somewhere between $20 and $21 trillion in assets globally. That rivals the entire annual output of the United States economy. And it isn't doing this for one client. It's doing it for hundreds of institutions simultaneously. Banks, insurers, sovereign wealth funds, central banks, all of them running the same software, shaped by the same logic, informed by the same assumptions. When those assumptions are right, the system works beautifully. The question nobody wants to answer out loud is what happens when they're wrong. Think about that for a second. Because when Aladdin gets it wrong everywhere at once. For the first decade of its existence, BlackRock is a significant company. By the mid-2000s, it manages hundreds of billions in assets. It is respected, but it is not yet extraordinary. Then 2008 happens. The financial crisis doesn't just destroy wealth, it destroys trust. Banks that have been managing their own risk suddenly discover they have no idea what's actually sitting on their balance sheets. Mortgage-backed securities, the very instruments Fink helped create 20 years earlier, have turned toxic. Nobody knows how toxic, because nobody has been able to model what happens when millions of homeowners default at the same time. Nobody except BlackRock. The United States government is now dealing with a system that is close to breaking. Toxic assets are sitting everywhere, but the real danger is that nobody can fully see them. Nobody knows what they are worth, how far the contagion goes, or how to unwind them safely. And in that fog, one firm keeps appearing again and again: BlackRock. The Federal Reserve hires BlackRock to manage the bailouts of Bear Stearns and AIG. The Treasury turns to them. So does the European Central Bank. So does the Bank of England. At the precise moment when every other major financial institution is scrambling for survival, BlackRock becomes the institution that governments call when they need someone who actually understands the problem. That moment doesn't just make BlackRock rich, it makes BlackRock indispensable. And indispensability, in the world of finance, is the rarest and most valuable thing of all. After 2008, Fink moves. He acquires Merrill Lynch Investment Managers, then Barclays Global Investors, the firm that essentially invented index funds as we know them today. That second acquisition alone nearly doubled BlackRock's assets under management in a single transaction. BlackRock is no longer a company, it is becoming a category. And it's about to get a lot bigger. Let's pause here. Because the numbers are so large, they stop feeling real. As of today, BlackRock manages over $10 trillion in assets. That figure requires some context to understand properly. The entire GDP of Japan, the world's fourth largest economy, is around $4 trillion. Germany sits at roughly $4.5 trillion. The United Kingdom at around $3 trillion. BlackRock, a single private investment management firm, controls more capital than the annual economic output of Japan and Germany combined. But here's what makes it stranger still. BlackRock doesn't just own stakes in individual companies. Because of how index funds work, it owns a piece of essentially every major publicly traded company on Earth simultaneously. Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, Nestle, Samsung, Shell, Unilever. When you buy a BlackRock index fund, and hundreds of millions of ordinary people do through their pension plans and retirement accounts, you're buying a sliver of the entire global economy, packaged and sold back to you by a single firm. If you have a pension, a retirement account, or a savings fund, there is a very good chance BlackRock is already managing part of your money. You just didn't know it. Which raises a question economists have been quietly debating for years. When the same firm holds major stakes across an entire industry, does competition still work the way it should? And when BlackRock holds positions in rival companies across the economy, does it really want them competing as hard as possible? Or does it benefit more when they stay big, stable, and profitable? Economists call this common ownership, and it is one of the least discussed structural issues in the modern economy. But what does controlling that much money actually allow you to do in the real world? There is a phrase that gets used in financial circles, usually quietly. BlackRock is the fourth branch of government. Larry Fink writes an annual letter, not to shareholders. He writes to the CEOs of the world's largest corporations. Every year, these letters are read extremely carefully by the executives who receive them. Because when BlackRock sends you a letter suggesting that your company needs to take climate risk more seriously, or that your board lacks diversity, or that your long-term strategy is misaligned with where markets are heading, you listen. BlackRock might be your largest single shareholder. They might control enough votes to influence your board. You listen. In 2020, Fink told CEOs that climate risk was investment risk, and that BlackRock would begin divesting from companies that posed high sustainability risks. The letter sent shockwaves through corporate boardrooms across the world. Not because Fink is a particularly powerful regulator. He has no official authority, no democratic mandate, but he controls enough capital to move markets. And everyone in those boardrooms knows it. But BlackRock is only part of the story. It is the largest, but it is not alone. Vanguard and State Street sit alongside it, forming what some analysts call the Big Three. Three asset management firms that collectively hold dominant stakes in nearly every major corporation on Earth. Together, they represent a concentration of financial power without historical precedent. And what built that concentration isn't complicated. It's something most people interact with without ever thinking about it. The rise of passive investing, index funds, changed everything. Capital no longer flows only to the best managed companies, the most innovative, or the most strategically important. It flows to all of them simultaneously. The logic is simple, but the implications are enormous. An index fund doesn't choose winners. It owns everything. One product, one purchase, and you're instantly a part owner of hundreds of companies at once. No judgment required. The judgment has been outsourced. The selection has been automated, and nobody voted for any of it. Then there is Aladdin. Think carefully about what it means that hundreds of the world's largest financial institutions are all running the same risk management software. When Aladdin says an asset class is risky, hundreds of institutions simultaneously reduce their exposure to it. When Aladdin sees an opportunity, hundreds of institutions move toward it at once. The diversity of judgment that a healthy financial system requires. The disagreement, the countervailing bets, the institution that sees something the others missed, is being quietly eroded by the spread of a single analytical framework. This is not a conspiracy. Nobody sat in a room and decided to concentrate the world's financial risk management in one place. It happened because Aladdin was genuinely better, because BlackRock genuinely understood risk better than its competitors, because the logic of efficiency, relentlessly applied, leads toward consolidation. But efficiency and resilience are not the same thing, and the history of complex systems, financial, ecological, technological, is a history of efficient systems that performed beautifully right up until the moment they didn't. Larry Fink did not set out to build an empire. He set out to build a better tool for measuring risk. The empire was, in a sense, a side effect. But that is precisely what makes this story important. Not as a story about one man or one company, but as a story about how systems of power form in the modern world. They don't form through conquest. They don't form through political campaigns or hostile takeovers. They form through the patient accumulation of informational advantages, through becoming the company that knows more than anyone else about something that everyone else needs to understand, through being useful, deeply, structurally useful, at the exact moment when the old system breaks down. BlackRock did not seize power, it just made itself necessary. And in the modern global economy, necessity is the most durable form of power there is. Which leaves us with a question that is genuinely uncomfortable. We have built a global financial architecture in which a small number of firms sit at the center of almost every significant flow of capital on Earth. They influence which companies get funded, which industries expand, which nations can borrow cheaply, and which face punishing interest rates. They advise the governments that are supposed to regulate them. They run the software that calculates the risks that the entire financial system depends on. And they are accountable, ultimately, to no one except their own clients. Not to voters, not to parliaments, not to the billions of people whose retirement savings, pension funds, and mortgage rates are quietly shaped by decisions made in buildings most of them have never heard of. This is not the story of a villain. Larry Fink is not a villain. BlackRock is not a conspiracy. The people who built it are, by most accounts, genuinely talented, largely ethical, and sincerely motivated by the belief that they are making markets work better. But that might be the most important insight of all. The most consequential systems of power in the modern world aren't built by villains with secret plans. They're built by capable people solving real problems, one efficient solution at a time. Until one day you step back and realize that something enormous has been assembled without anyone ever quite deciding to assemble it. BlackRock didn't happen by accident. The world built the conditions that made BlackRock possible. And somewhere out there, right now, another version of this story is already beginning.